My name is Samuel Ellis Newsome. I am a master journeyman carpenter, retired. I'm a general contractor, retired. I'm the founder of the A. Philip Randolph Institute, which is a part of the AFL-CIO. I am also the founder of Black Labor for the state of Arizona. I'm the producer of the William E. Pollard Golden Certificate, which honor people for voting for 55 years or more. I registered 55,000 people in the state of Arizona, and I put about 400 African American into the building and construction trades program. Barbara?
Okay. My name is Barbara Belder. I was Glasgow, which is a city in Scotland, and I won't go into how that we got that name. However, and I was born in New York City in Harlem Hospital, September 13th, 1938. And I lived on 7th Avenue, if you're familiar with New York City, in Harlem. I went to Public School 5, Public School 68, and Public School 136 before moving to Englewood, New Jersey. My father, Alwyn Glasgow, was a New York City taxi driver. My mother was Mildred Crenshaw Glasgow, and she did various things, but mainly she took care of other people's children. I have 2 sisters and a brother. One of my sisters passed away. My other sister lives in Teaneck, New Jersey. We lived in Englewood, New Jersey. I went to Dwight Morrow High School. And with my brother was a photographer, and he had a lot of pictures in newspapers and magazines, but he passed away about a year and a half ago. I am the mother of 3 daughters, stepmother of 3 sons. Between the 2 of us, we had 12 grandchildren. Two of the boys passed away. And I am the great-grandmother of 4 girls and 1 little sweet darling boy. I came to Tucson in 1963. And at that time, I was married before. My former husband was a U of A football player. And he played with Joe Hernandez and Bobby Thompson. You know. And I also saw you play, and also there was some basketball players that I knew. I can't think of any of them right now, the names, but I knew quite a few of the U of A football athletes. And I also attended the U of A, and I attended Pima College. I worked for AT&T in New York City. I came here to Tucson and was one of the first Black telephone operators for Mountain Bell. I also went to Hampton University, but only for 1 semester. I didn't like being in Virginia. Anything else? I worked for Pima. I worked for Pima County. I worked for F.A.M. Rodriguez because I can't remember what department it was for almost 12 years. When she retired, she looked at me and she said, "You're older than me. You retired too." And other than that, I've been, like I said, been kind of doing little different jobs here and there.
She's a coordinator of the Arizona State A. Philip Randolph Institute.
Oh, yes.
As well as all the other activities that she have.
Okay.
I met her in 1974. I was a member of the Carpenters Union, Local 857. She was a member of CWA number 3, was it?
I forgot the number.
2770.
Yeah.
CWA Communication Workers Union. I am also the founder of the William E. Pollard Golden Certificate. The certificate is recognized people for voting for 55 years or more. And it's signed by George Meany as appreciated citizen. It's signed by A. Philip Randolph as appreciated citizen, and is also signed by the Vice President Walter Mondale, United States Vice President. And also, I'm from the state of Mississippi, born in the state of Mississippi. I never got a lot of education because I have a disease known as dyslexia affected, but it never affected my activity or ability to do anything. I'm also a delegate to the presidential inauguration. Whenever a Democratic president get elected, Barbara and I are delegates to Washington, and we sit in the blue section. We are active, involved in many activities around the city of Tucson and state of Arizona. We have traveled to the president inauguration. We have also worked as a delegate to the Arizona State AFL-CIO COPE Committee on Political Education. I and her has worked together for a long time, but I didn't like her. She couldn't stand me.
True. Very true.
But we finally wound up. We met in 1974, I think it was. Yes, something like that.
Something like, yeah.
And she didn't like me. I couldn't stand her. But over the years, it grew together. We have worked in the churches in the Tucson. I work with Living Water Minister. I work with Mount Carey. I work with Rising Star, and work with many churches to get African American young men and women into the pre-apprenticeship and the apprenticeship program. The apprenticeship program and pre-apprenticeship program lasts up to high 6 years in the building construction trades. But it's also, we now is in the work of spreading the pre-apprenticeship program back into high school, so that African American who wants to go into apprenticeship programs can start as a pre-apprenticeship in high school and work their way out to high school and then become an apprentice. And then the apprenticeship program take actually 4 years to finish the apprenticeship program. But some apprenticeship program lasts 2 years, but most apprenticeship program goes at 4 years. The carpenters, plumbers, electrician, brick mason, heavy equipment operators, etc. And we are trying to reach out to get African American residents saying, I want to go to university, Ivy League University to make a living. You can make $60 to $70 to $80 to $100,000 a year as a journeyman carpenter, plumber, electrician, brick mason, etc. And there is a lot of money out there for us, a lot of trades. And we were getting people from all over the world to come into the United States. And one of the things that's happened to us now, we are losing we are losing the quality of our workers, because so many people like me, like I'm 84 years old, I'm retired. I can't work anymore. I have dyslexia, I have the COPD, and I got a few other disease, but I'm still going. I'm a delegate to the Carpenters Union program, represented the state of Arizona and PAC. So PAC is a part of the Carpenters Union. My parents was farmers in the state of Mississippi. I'm from Mississippi. And my father and my mother both was very uneducated people. But however, they raised how many kids? 11 boys and girls.
6 boys and 4 girls.
6 boys and 4 girls. And
7 boys, yes.
And 6.
Well, 7 including you.
Yes, sir, you're right. Today, I'm the only one that is, out of 13, my mother and the father, Tito Newsome and Annie Ruth Newsome, they are farmers in the state of Mississippi, but I'm the only one out of the 13 that is left. The only one. And it's kind of lonesome out there sometimes to realize that I'm the only one, but I got Barbara. And she filled in for me. And she makes it right a lot of ways. But state of Mississippi, When I left Mississippi in 1955, Mississippi, I wouldn't even want to be buried in Mississippi. But now Mississippi is a wonderful state, and we are making great strive, great progress in the state of Mississippi especially for African American. We are, and because the African American have a lot to offer, and we are trying to reach out to African American through the union movement in the United States. We have been doing this actually since A. Philip Randolph came on the scene back in the early years, and we're trying to get African American to be visible, to be more than just a prison. Representative. We don't want to be African American to represent the prison community. We want African American people to represent scientists, doctors, lawyers, preachers, teachers, professors of all walks of life, inventors. We are the number one people in the world. Why can't we be represented and be proud of who we are? I am a very proud person of my activity over the years with the unions, and is very proud to know that I can have helped so many people in the state of Arizona for the past 50 years now. My grandparents was Theodore Newsome. I didn't know them very much. They was people that, again, like I say, ex-slaves and farmers. But I met my grandmother. Her name is Nina Moses. I never met my grandfather. My grandfather was killed by a Caucasian person over a tree. And my grandmother, she worked just as a housewife and a farmer. That's all she did through her life.
My father was a New York City taxi driver for over almost 50 years. And his parents came from the West Indies, so I'm part West Indian and part Southern. My mother was born in Franklin, Virginia, rather, and she was raised in Norfolk until my grandparents moved to New York City in Harlem. My grandfather, I didn't know too well. But my grandmother worked. She worked in a laundry, and there's a store in New York called Bloomstein's, and she worked for the Bloomstein family for years. And every Christmas, they would give her $10 and let her take us shopping in their store, and that we could buy a lot of stuff back then.
Your great aunt, your great grandma, is your grandmother or great aunt was from.
Well, I get to that.
Okay,
yeah. And my aunt, my father's sister, was one of the first African American policewomen on the New York City police force. And after that, she became a lawyer. She went to I forgot what you call it, but she became a lawyer in New York City, and then eventually she moved to San Francisco, where she passed away. And my other grandmother, my father's mother, she came from the West Indies, but she could pass for Italian. And so she worked in a company until one day my grandfather came to pick her up, and they said, and he asked for Lucinda Glasgow, and they said, "Oh, we don't have any colored people working here." And he said, "Oh yes, my wife's work here." And the next day she got fired or let go. Mm-hmm. But she worked was pretty good, and as I said, and I married my oldest daughter, two daughters. The middle daughter, the second daughter, she works for the government for the federal government, but she's got a master's degree, and she was working on getting the next highest degree, but she went away.
Doctor.
A doctorate degree, yeah. Mm-hmm. My youngest daughter, she has a degree. She went to school around off of Speedway and down the street.
Business
somewhere.
college.
Huh?
Business University.
Yeah, business school. And but my middle daughter, she's been working for the federal government since she was, I think, 19 or 20 years old, and she will be 62 in November. And my oldest daughter, she's worked here and there. And I think you may know her. It's Dawn Smith. She used to go around with some of the players at the university. But she's worked different jobs, and she was living in Atlanta, but now she lives in Florida. And she had 2 kids. Her son just passed away about a little over a year ago. In fact, a year this month. And she has a daughter, and her daughter was a model, but now she has her own business in Washington, D.C. When I lived in Harlem, it was nice. I lived on 7th Avenue. I don't know if you know where that is, between 143rd and 144th Street. And I went to Salem Methodist Church, and the pastor there, his son was a poet. And I had Reverend Cullen. And so you probably would know who Cullen was the poet. And he baptized me when I was a baby, and I went to Salem Methodist Church until we moved to New Jersey. And then when we moved to New Jersey, I went to First Baptist Church in Englewood, New Jersey. I went to Dwight Moore High School in New Jersey, and I went to Hampton Institute, and came back, and I worked for the telephone company, and I retired after 29 years. I had various positions here. Especially when I came to Tucson, I was the third African-American operator in the city of Tucson for Mountain Bell, period. There was another one up in Phoenix and 2 others here in Tucson. My husband at the time, he was a football player for the U of A, and he used up his time. And then the coach called him one day and said, "Hey, we have an opening. Would you like to come and help be an assistant coach?" Even though he didn't have a degree. And he did, and I've been in Tucson ever since. Mm-hmm. And he passed away in 2005. And but I had 2 daughters before I married him, and then we had 1 daughter, and she's still living here in Tucson, and she has 3 daughters and 5 grandchildren. Mm-hmm. So yeah, my oldest daughter, like I said, you probably know her, and then my middle daughter is 61, mm-hmm. and my youngest daughter is 51. She was 10 years younger, and my oldest grandson he was 44 when he passed away. In fact, I won't go into how. Yeah, mm-hmm. And then I have another grandson, and he's 37, 38, and my oldest granddaughter is 39. And I have 2 granddaughters here in Tucson and 1 up in Phoenix. And so if I got a pretty good family, and yeah, but I did other work too. I worked for the union, CWA, and I was a president for the Pima County office for about a year and a half. And then I got promoted into being working at what do you call? I'm getting old. I can't remember. Yeah, but I had a department of my own for a while, and then I retired when they offered me retirement. I took it. Yeah, and then I worked for, like I said, for Pima County with Ann Rodriguez and a couple other places. My father, like I said, was a taxi driver, and when I was about 11 years old, during the Christmas season, he would take me in the taxi and sit me in the front seat. And when fare would get out, I'd look at them and smile, and they would give me a tip. And so that was how I got my Christmas money. When by the time I was in high school, I worked different jobs and worked in then, like I said, I went to college and then came back and I worked at a telephone company and other places. I worked at Macy's department store when there was only one Macy's in the world, and that was on 34th Street in New York City, right?
So you watch the parade every year?
Oh yes, oh yes. From the from the time I was, my father would take us down there on Thanksgiving morning, and we stand out there in the cold. I was in the Labor Day parade up in Harlem, and marched down 7th Avenue, and from 110th Street to 145th Street, and I was in the parade there. And then when I was in high school, I was in the Dwight Morrow band. I was a twirler, and so I've had, and then at one point I modeled in New York City, and then I came here to Tucson. I'm not going to tell you what happened. they would tell me to model, but what I would have to do is wear clothes that I would wear like what my grandmother wore and stuff like that. And I told them no, I didn't want to wear that. But I did it at Mount Calvary. I did it, and I also did it for the Urban League. They had a fashion show every so often. I would model for them. And
any traditions you remember as a child?
Just working as a farmer in Mississippi. I worked as an automobile mechanic. I came to Tucson in 1955, and I went to work at the Ghost Ranch Lodge filling station over on Casa Grande Highway, or Miracle Mile now, I guess they call it. And it's just mostly being a farmer, sir. That's been my tradition. Then I joined the Labor's Union in 1959, and then they wanted a bunch of people to become carpenters. And I worked for 10 years at labor, then I switched over to the carpenters, and then I like I said, I'm a delegate now, which is a very, very, very privileged position to be, and I wish I could do more than what I'm doing, and it's just it's an enjoyable way to work and to help people and to do what my activity becoming a general contractor as well as carpenters. I went to Labor's Union. I started on the corner of 7th Street and Speedway as a laborer, and started there at work and worked there. And then I went to work for American Smelter and Refinery Company. And I went to work for as a laborer, and then switched over to ASNR as a carpenter. And but my tradition been mostly working in the area of building and construction trades, and helping African American women and men, but mostly men, into the pre-apprenticeship and the apprenticeship program. I worked with the Urban League for many, many years with that pre-apprenticeship program, teaching African American youngsters how to become professionals in the building and construction trades. And I work in the state of Mississippi. I work as a mechanic, helper, and just doing never odd job, but real career job. Becoming a master mechanic at the age of 17 years old. Like I say, we're both in our 80s, and we've both done the work that we have been doing for the past 50 some odd years now, about 60 years now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's the one that got me kind of into the union. Well, not to the union, because I was already in the union, but working with the Urban League in different places. And we went to different states and different organization meetings and worked. I worked with the in the NAACP for a little bit, but not very long, and way back when. And when the NAACP could only be in certain places.
Right.
Yeah. And but also when I was with the union, I traveled a lot to different cities. I've been almost to all the states in the United States except for 11.
Like I say, my father and mother was dirt farmers in the state of Mississippi. Everybody in the family finished high school except me. But it didn't have anything to do with my sons on my side of the family. I have three boys, three boys, and all three of them has degrees in they're scientists. All three of them got master's degrees in education, and and I have received all kinds of certificates and all kinds of awards over the years. My son came to Tucson and he said, "Dad, these awards was given to me." I said, "How do you figure?" He said, he said, "They sent the awards to you, by you to me." He said, "All these awards are mine." So he's taken all of my awards that I've received from delegates to the union presidents to everything that I have received. But my sons are never been to jail, never had any problem. But they all three of them is married. They got kids. Or I got.
You got six
grandkids.
You got two. You got six kids, yeah.
Six grandkids, right?
Six grandkids, yeah. And you had three sons, six grandkids, and no great grands.
No great grands.
I got.
Yeah, she got great grands. I got the grandkids.
Yeah.
And but my son is they're wonderful people, and I'm very proud of them. They're honorable people. They're real highly technologized professionals, in their trades. And all of them is computer scientists. That's what all three of them went into scientists. And you can you can imagine how proud I am as a father to have these young men with such a wonderful background and never got arrested for nothing. This is a wonderful thing. And that's the reason why I'm working so hard, still working hard, to see that African American get a trades job, get an education, become good citizens, become good husband, become good wife, but most importantly, become leaders of families and good husband. That is my love in life.
And so one of the things that happened to me, and I was about 18 or 19 years old, and I went to Virginia, and I got on the train in New York, and I got to Maryland, and all of a sudden the conductor knocked on the window and told me to get, and I had never done that because I lived in New York almost all my life. And I rode the subway, and nobody ever told me once, and I won't give over. I was going the bus into New York from New Jersey, going to work. And on the highway, there were hotels. And this couple got on, and I was sitting in the seat, and there was a white man sitting next to me. And this couple got on, and the man got up and looked at me and said, "Get up and give my wife your seat." And I was reading the newspaper, and I kept right on reading and looked at, never looked up. And so he turned, "Did you hear what I said?" I still kept reading. Finally, the man that was sitting next to me said, "If you say one more word for her, I'm going to knock you out." He didn't say knock you out. He said, "Okay, I'm in church." and that was the first time in New York that I had ever been accosted by somebody telling me, showing me Jim Crow. In Virginia, yeah, I expected it.
Right.
I went in the bus station, went to buy something to eat. The lady told me, "Oh, it's not ready yet." I came back 10 minutes later. Oh, I still not ready yet. I never did get served. And that was in 1956, 57. Yeah, but I know he lived through Mississippi, and I can imagine what he went through. But that was the first time in Virginia, but when I got on the bus in New Jersey, but the first time in Virginia that I ever had to get up and moving.
I heard you were.
Oh God, yes.
I'm sorry.
Were you a porter on a railroad or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you didn't mention that. I was wondering if you might want to mention your experience as that, because that used to be a very highly esteemed job.
Yes.
African American men really wanted to.
Yes, the A. Philip Randolph Institute is named after A. Philip Randolph, as you know. A. Philip Randolph, the founder of the Sleeper Pullman's Car Union. It was the first African American union in the history of the United States. And he traveled all across the United States. And actually he come to Tucson. And he couldn't get accommodation in Tucson because he was black. And we at that time they had what they call launches. Women made food for these launches, traveled across the United States, organizing this union. And these black women, which I'm so proud of you. No kidding, you guys done a marvelous job over the years, helping us to become entrenched into the building construction trades. And my experience being called every nigger this west of the Mississippi River. But my mother said, as long as he never called you Sam Newsome, don't worry about it. Keep your head up, keep your focus on your job. You'll never be an educated person, you'll never be a rich man, but you will never be a person that takes a step behind nobody. He said, do what you got to do and help yourself always.